welcome back. Part 2 with George Elek of Oddschecker, the betting comparison site, with James from the Owls About Stat, or is it Owls About Stat or Owl About Stat? Owls About Stat, statistical website, which is really only recently launched, but already is unearthing some very good and revealing statistics on Sheffield Wednesday, some of which we heard in part 1 and some more of which we'll hear in part 2. James is here to round up everything else on a busy sporting scene, including ice hockey, because I think we're both a bit puzzled about the decline at the moment of Sheffield Steelers.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's going on.
No, I mean, you know, it's looking from afar. I think they're just on a poor run of form. I think, you know, it's been, you know, we talked about this before we came on air, didn't we? When a new manager comes in, and Tom Barrasso, he's come in, and it's been under such a consistent regime for so long. And then now it's kind of, you know, I think the wheels were coming off before then. I think he's got a tough task ahead of him.
I agree. I think it mirrors football in that respect, that when somebody's been in post for a long, long time, the successor often has a difficult job. I mean, as for all his critics, as Jos Lukai had following Carlos Carvalho, who was a successful manager, you've got to say that, at Sheffield Wednesday. That next man in, when there'd been no shake-up, the squad needed freshening, it hadn't happened, I think whoever it was going to have a problem there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think it's almost a poison job, isn't it? It's like whoever was going into Manchester United after Sir Alex Ferguson. Didn't matter how good they were going to have to be the fall guy, really, and that's probably the way it played out with Jos. Didn't help that I don't think he was a particularly good manager, unfortunately.
No, I'm sure Carlos would be delighted to hear you comparing him to Sir Alex as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, Carlos follows this occasionally. I'm pretty sure he's welcome any time. By the way, in fact, I sent him a message just a week or two back saying, you know, if he's got a spare Thursday evening, he'd be more than welcome to
the Portuguese Fergie.
And he is fairly linked with quite a lot of championship jobs at the moment. I look at the odds and I always see him sort of 4th or 5th favourite. He was actually 3rd for one job recently. Was it Stoke or was it?
It makes sense. Yeah, I think his a couple of the interviews he gave at his brief time at Swansea means that he's pretty quite high on a few fans' wish lists. And you look back at the job he did at Sheffield Wednesday. I think when he left the club, it didn't necessarily feel like a seminal moment for Wednesday, despite, you know, the back-to-back playoff campaigns. At the end of the day, he didn't get them over the line. I think no one could have predicted the regression afterwards. So I think it's one of those ones in hindsight now you're thinking it's probably a mistake to ever really let him leave the club.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's not go there.
Okay.
Let's not go there.
From an outsider, that is.
We argued this, I think on your last visit, I think we argued this point, and it's gone round and round in the tumble dryer. We'll move on. I just remember him as a double playoff manager,
exactly.
And he deserves to be given huge credit for that, whatever. Right, staying on Sheffield Wednesday, I promised this, 4th round of the FA Cup, a week on Sunday, 6 o'clock at night, by the way, which I know it hasn't gone down well with you, and nor should it. It's absolutely disgraceful that fans are bottom of the pecking order, and I would say that whichever club is involved in that.
It's rugby. FA Cup is 3 o'clock Saturday. That's what it should be. And there's been so few 3rd round games. I think less than a third of them were 3 o'clock on Saturday, and that's just not what football's about. And it's a real shame that, you know, we've seen the Premier League, and now it's worked its way down into the Championship, where there's fewer and fewer games at that traditional kick-off time. Now seeing it in the FA Cup as well. I mean, does anyone want a 6 o'clock Sunday evening game in the FA Cup?
The football should be running itself and should be saying to the broadcast companies, whoever they are, it's BBC in this case, when they sell the rights to a competition, yes, you can do this at these times. These are the times where 6 o'clock on a Sunday night? What? No, you can't. You cannot do that.
I agree, but
it's not in the deal.
But isn't the only time it would work for me is if it was enabling a smaller club, maybe in the early rounds of the competition, and in a local game to be on, you know, terrestrial TV, where it was enabling the competition to recapture some of that magic, I guess, where it could be. I think if you're having Chelsea Sheffield Wednesday, a game that we've all seen plenty of times before in the league, in the Premier League in the past as well, it's not really capturing anyone's imagination, I guess, except for the Sheffield Wednesday fans who want to make the trip to be there.
One of the televised games from the 3rd round just gone was Manchester United Reading. I mean, like, that was the most uninspiring one. You look down the list of the fixtures, and there was so many potential upsets. Baffling, really. And I mean, frustrating. You know, in terms of travelling as well. I mean, talk us through your travel arrangements. I'm guessing you've sorted them out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go down to Luton, so I was listening to it on the radio, and I had train tickets in my basket on my laptop, waiting to click the buy button the second the full-time whistle went, because I knew there'd be a bit of a rush on them. So yeah, we're going down fairly early. We're going to make a day of it, and then we're getting the last train back, which gives us time to get across London back to King's Cross. Is at 10:30, but that's into Doncaster. We've not figured out how we're going to get from Doncaster back to Sheffield yet. I think we'll worry about that when it comes around.
Yeah, absolutely. Extra time and penalties as well. You know, I mean, if it does get to that, great.
Fingers crossed.
But
Let's see what the odds are, because Sheffield Wednesday odds to win at Chelsea in round 4.
So to win in 90 minutes, Sheffield Wednesday are 22-1, and
22
to
1.
qualify through the tie, they're 11-1.
11-1.
So
whether it goes to extra time or penalties.
So you can look at it this way: you're as likely to beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge as you are to get relegated this season. So
I know which one of those.
But I mean, to me, I think 22-1 is worth a punt, because these results do happen. I mean, illogical though it may seem, Chelsea are not being particularly prolific at home in terms of creating. It's not like a Manchester City scenario, is it? Like going there.
oh, the gulf's just massive between those two sides.
no, I mean you've got to hope that a certain Gonzalo Higuain isn't going to be called upon to gain his match fitness for the game as well. Who looks like he'll be at the club by then. But no, I agree. I always think that as someone who enjoys the odd football bet, the FA Cup does provide some good options to back a couple of outsiders, because there are always shocks.
Bradford City have won at Chelsea in recent years.
Yeah, about 3 years ago.
4-2 was it? Yeah.
You're not going to ask me the price then, are you?
No. And they were in the 3rd tier at the time, I think.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a shock on that scale. Okay, you're given those 22-1 to win in 90 minutes at Stamford Bridge. Odds on Sheffield Wednesday to win the FA Cup.
So the odds on Leicester to win the Premier League, as we all know, is 5,000-1. Take a note off that, so it's 500-1 for Sheffield Wednesday to win the FA Cup.
It's worth a quid, James, surely.
I think we should all put a bit of money on that one.
We'll see the
Bring
price
those
crunch
odds
for
up.
Oddschecker, I know.
We'll have a cooperative. I'm still
Yeah.
staggered that he's got all these in his head.
I know, I'm baffled,
I mean,
you know.
he's got all these. We're going to talk
I'm just making them up, actually. Everyone will go online now and see it's something completely different. But
We're going to talk Marcelo Bielsa in just a moment. But first, I'll put you out of your misery, because you're sitting here with your iPad. I know you've got. I asked you for some individual stats of interest on Sheffield Wednesday players and other things that you've unearthed there.
Yeah, sure. So you kind of look at players. Well, first of all, let's look at statistically who is Sheffield Wednesday's best player of the season. Now, you have to take this with a bit of pinch of salt, and I'll explain why. Because the stats would tell you that Tom Lees has been our best player this season. I think most Sheffield Wednesday fans would tell you that's probably not the case. And the reason being that Tom Lees makes a lot of tackles. The problem is we're not playing very well, therefore he has to make a lot of tackles, and that's why statistically he's kind of up there or thereabouts. It's a difficult one to kind of know what stats you want to measure as to who your best player is. You're probably better off getting the player ratings from the Star and dividing them by the number of games that player's played, to be honest. But I know Reach obviously is a player that a lot of Wednesday fans have been talking about, and his statistics, where they're actually, I mean, his stats aren't bad. He's obviously played a lot of minutes this season. He's got one Man of the Match award. He doesn't have any standout stats other than goals outside the box. Right. There's nothing really that kind of sets him apart. He doesn't come particularly high in any of those categories. Barry Bannon, slightly different here. He's, in terms of passing, he's actually 136th in the Championship, which is not particularly impressive, but he is 4th in the Championship for key passes. So that's playing passes that could ultimately lead to goals. So that kind of tells you something about the fact that Bannon obviously has been a big creator for us this season.
Yeah. Okay. All very revealing. Thanks very much indeed. Bielsa, we'll kick it off now. Come to you for your roundup, and then top and tail afterwards. What are our views on this? Because, he sends a spy. Look, everybody knows he sent a spy to sort of peer under a fence at Derby County's training ground ahead of Leeds United beating Derby. George, your view?
I'm not particularly surprised that it happens. I'm not particularly surprised that he is the manager who's done it before. He's known to be an obsessive about preparation. You saw the quotes yesterday. He was saying that he didn't need to do it He just did it because he could and because he's stupid, as he called himself. He's far from stupid. And the interesting thing that I think about this is kind of twofold. Firstly, he has come out of this unbelievably well. I mean, if you look if you look at the outrage initially, he has spun this into a huge positive, calling a press conference an hour and a half in advance. Everyone talking about whether he's going to resign. The whole of the football world watching. You got it live on TalkSport, live on Sky, and there he is giving a 90-minute presentation as to the detail in which he and his backroom staff go to, and he comes out of everyone saying he's a genius, which is a bit of a PR stunt because really every single manager has access to what he showed on that big screen yesterday. But there's Instat, there's Wisecout, there's all sorts of different information that anyone watching this could go and pay for and have access to. But the way he delivered it made him seem as if he was some special entity to which the Championship had never seen before. Yeah. And I admire him for that. I think it's an amazing job that he's done, and the kind of the myth that surrounds Bielsa, the football that Leeds played, because I think personally Leeds' squad is by no means the best squad in the Championship.
No,
I think, especially technically,
it's the same players near enough.
Exactly,
and he's transformed them.
And the injuries don't seem to make a difference. Players like Calvin Phillips and Kemar Roof are kind of 10 times the players they were last season. And so, despite the unsportsmanlike behaviour, I almost think the way that Frank Lampard's dealt with it is pretty bitter and sour, and he hasn't come across well about it at all.
There's two things I took from it, right? And the two things I took were he's basically made all the other managers in the league just probably have a little think about their preparation. Could I do more? Obviously, he's got the resources. He's got lots of staff, lots of time as well. I mean, the hours that he's putting in. I mean, we're talking about Stoke as well, this weekend's opponents. They've only had 2 games under their new manager, Nathan James. What's he done? Gone to watch all Luton's games from this season. Nathan James was previously at.
Does he go to bed?
Well, exactly. The second thing.
Sad, really.
He just sits on his bucket.
He's a wonderful guy. Yeah.
The second thing that I took from it, which is an immeasurable, like you can't measure this in stats or whatever. I always think that Leeds have a bit of an air of, I don't know, invincibility about them when it's us against them. When it's them against the world. And I think that now, having all this sort of surrounding them, away fans, and when they go away, all the home fans will be taunting them, and sort of, they've got this thing, dirty, cheating Leeds and all this. They love it, and that certainly came across on Friday. It had a bit of needle, that game.
Chris Wilder's made the same point.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to feed that. But it's not crime of the century anyway, is it, really? I mean, he's not broken any laws. I mean, people say it's been going on forever.
Exactly, but you look at Frank Lampard in his press conference after the FA Cup game. And before he sat down, he said we do an analysis too.
Yeah.
And Bielsa seeing that would have thought, that is brilliant. That's exactly what we want. We were getting right under their skin. People are annoyed watching him doing that because they do. It's nothing special.
And the big thing to take from it, I mean, Stuart Pearce on TalkSport, I think it was yesterday, saying, that result from Friday night should be overturned. Complete nonsense.
Unbelievable.
That bloke's... I mean, that's the best thing that came from it with Bielsa. Like, look at this preparation. Yeah. Do you think that my bloke stood there with a pair of binoculars has made any difference to that result? And the answer is no.
Leeds are not top of the table because they've been spying on other teams. It's because they work hard, isn't it? Yeah. We've all watched them. We all know that. It just feels like something and nothing, this. It feels like a real storm in a teacup.
Do you know, the only trick I thought Bielsa missed in a quite brilliant handling of the whole thing, I think he should have formally invited every other Championship club to Leeds training grounds.
A seminar.
Yeah, because effectively, in justifying his methods, he's done that, really.
Yeah.
So, instead of just spying from the outer perimeter, they perhaps go in, say, I've come here from Aston Villa.
And he's made it impossible for them to punish him because he said he's done it for every game. So if they were going to give him a points deduction for that one game, they can't go and do anything.
I mean, there's no laws that they can charge him with, apart
I
from.
Think so.
I think it'll be a slap on the wrist and really nothing.
If that, I think.
Yeah, but it's been great fun. It's been absolutely fantastic.
And what a signing for them today as well. I think under the radar they've gone and signed
the Madrid keeper.
They have.
And Bailey Peacock-Farrell's a very young goalkeeper who I'm sure will have a big future in the game, but there's no doubt in my mind that was a huge weakness for them. And given their defensive record, they've conceded the 2 fewest goals in the league this season, second fewest goals in the league this season, behind Middlesbrough. And you just feel the likes of Cooper and Janssen will be able to rest a little bit easier, knowing they've got someone experienced in goal.
It's not so much the shot stopping, is it? It's actually shoring up the 4 men that he's got in front of him.
And the shot stopping wasn't great either. So
you didn't give us the Leeds title. Oh, I didn't ask you the Leeds title also. So there we are.
So Leeds are 11 to 10 to win the league.
Wow.
And I reckon after what happened today, I wrote a column about it online today on Oddschecker. I think that's a bit of value given the. I think that signing today will win them 2 or 3 points. If you think they're 4 points clear already, they're going to be hard to reel in.
So you adjust your odds based on a signing like that, or tweak? Not yours.
Yeah.
Going across.
I mean, I basically my reasoning in the column today was just saying that I think the odds should have changed and they haven't yet. So
right, okay, interesting. Right, we'll come back top and tail, owl stats and various other interesting odds if you can dream one or two up. I don't.
I'll try.
You've got them in your head anyway. After James has rounded up everything else.
Yeah, we'll rattle through it. Well, the Blades are on the telly on Saturday night down in Swansea. A quite away trip, that one, for the Blades fans, I'm sure. Saturday night in Swansea. Yeah, they'll definitely be taking a lot of pride from that result at Bramall Lane last week against QPR as well. Now second in the table are the Blades fans, and of course an important win, we've already touched on it, for Sheffield Wednesday, getting through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. Lots of Wednesday fans down in Luton as well for that game. Good to see so much support down there, and they've got Wigan on Saturday at home.
1,500?
Yeah, about that.
1,500?
Packed out, wasn't it?
Tuesday,
I saw the pictures
Tuesday
on
night.
stuff online.
Incredible.
So we'll move to non-league football now. Well, Hallam, they lost to Campion last weekend in that really good run of form that they were on. Still very much in the promotion hunt, though. They've got Worsborough this weekend at Sandygate. Sheffield FC, they've got Stamford at home as well. Stocksbridge are away at Pickering, and Worksop host Athersley as well. Little shout out for those two clubs.
Yeah.
We sort of mention occasionally on this little roundup.
I'm glad you did, because we had the Worksop manager Craig Denson in a few weeks ago, and it's good to see them win last weekend.
Absolutely,
They're doing very well.
Very well indeed.
Bit of a shout out as well for Penistone Church, who are going great. First or second, Keith Hackett's team, and Dronfield Town as well. I think 7th or 8th.
You've been up there a couple of times to watch Dronfield Town?
Only the once,
right?
But they get increasing amounts of publicity for the fact that they don't pay any players or the manager.
That's incredible.
And they're still riding high in their league. So well done. We'll sort of feature these guys again at some.
Yeah, we'll talk about them in more depth, definitely.
Yeah.
Just to mark your card, no game for Sheffield United ladies this weekend. Their next game is against Charlton next Sunday. Well, in basketball, Sharks lost down in London last week, but they've got Bristol tomorrow night away from home. And, well, we talked about it at the start of this half of the show. Well, you never know what a good run of form can do. And Sheffield Steelers in the Ice Hockey League, they'll certainly be hoping that a good run of form will start this weekend. They've got MK both home and away this weekend in a double header. Win both of those games, it puts them back on track, maybe just to squeeze into the playoffs. I'm not sure if you've got any odds on that. That is really putting you on the spot. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure we do, yeah.
We'll move to rugby union. Tigers in the 3rd tier of English rugby, they've got Fylde, of course, a massively supported club as well, so expect a lot in attendance at Dormoor at 2 p.m. on Saturday. They lost, of course, last weekend to Chester. And Sheffield Rugby Club, well, they maintain their good run of form. They're hoping to join the Tigers back in National 2 North again next season. They've got Doncaster Phoenix away from home. And in golf as well, yes, that's come around quickly as well. Matt Fitzpatrick in action at the Singapore Open. He's in the top 10 after his first round today. So, yeah, there we go.
Okay, thanks very much, James. Yeah, it brings us back to Des Ponchanceries' statement last night. A very long one.
It was.
Nobody can accuse him of not being transparent about the financial circumstances of the club. Or I think that he's a genuine guy who cares, his heart's in it. And that sort of came through in what was a plea, really, to supporters to back a relaunch of something that proved unpopular first time, which was like Club 1867. Yep. What do you make of that? First of all,
the idea didn't go down very well first time around. There's a lot of variables in it from a fan point of view. I've not seen the details of it this time. I don't know if they've been announced. I've certainly not seen them. But last time it was in the region of £1,500, and as and when Sheffield Wednesday are in the Premier League, you get a 3-year season ticket. But obviously you don't get anything until that point. It didn't go down very well. I think it was very, very low numbers. Might even have been single figures. I think the number of fans that actually took it up first time around. Wow. So it really needs some kind of work to make that appealing for fans, and I saw one of my friends, Chris McClure, who put on Twitter about the fact that same situation for me. We've been asked to find £1,500, and then season ticket renewal means that more than £2,000 to spend on our club. And there's a lot of Wednesday fans out there that very much love their club and you know, would do anything for them, but we just don't have that kind of money to be able to spend on our football team. So we'll have to see what the details are. It needs some work if it's gonna go down well.
How about the overall situation? You know, quite clearly the team needed freshening and has done for some time, and that's, in my view, been at the root of the problem now. Players haven't been sold, players haven't moved on. Yep. That it's clearly a reality that has to happen. And the bottom line for me is, you know, that there's got to be a joined-up transfer policy. You've got a pretty hands-on, or a guy who likes to be a hands-on manager in Steve Bruce. Doesn't seem to be much point in employing him if you're going to get a bid for a player. The bottom line should be, is that, in your opinion, Steve, you know, a good offer for that player? If he says yes, then that advice should then lead the process. You know, that player should then be sold or move on loan or whatever, in my opinion. As long as that happens, I think the club can get back on. That's my opinion. Get back on track.
It was interesting. There was no reference really in the statement last night to players going out, and the only the hope that I take from that is when Steve Bruce was appointed, there was a big deal made in the press about him being given full control over incomings and outgoings. So maybe that means that the chairman stayed away from talking about that, because ultimately that's now Steve Bruce's department. My fear is that the chairman doesn't really intend to sell, and that's a real problem. And
he doesn't intend to sell the club. I mean, he's not addressed that again. I think that was just a throwaway comment on a fiery night for him.
Yeah, sure.
But you mean in terms of players, he almost like an art collector, isn't really keen on parting with any of them. It's laudable in one sense, you know, that you don't want to see your best players go, but in reality,
yeah, I mean, we were talking beforehand about, you've got a player like Fernando Forestieri, who 2 years ago there was talk of bids of 8 figures coming in for him, and since then he's not really done a lot. And I know at the time it was, on my part, it was an unpopular opinion when I kind of said I think we should sell him, and I know the fans said the same. And ultimately, it's been proved that it would have been good business. And we're looking at the same situation now with a player like Adam Reach, who has scored some great goals this season, and he works really hard, and he's a good part of that team. But you know, we need money in quick, and a few fans putting £2,000 here and there into the club is not going to solve the problem. Selling Adam Reach for £10 million, that will go a big way towards solving the problem.
If Steve Bruce, an experienced manager, has his hand on that particular tiller in and out, I think you've got a better chance of turning it around. So. Otherwise, why go for a manager of his style and modus operandi? And he's kind of outside view on this. I mean, you know, increasingly it's become very different in the way that football is structured within clubs, isn't it, George, really?
Yeah, it is. And I think the managers now, there's often a power struggle between whether it's them, the decisions of players coming in and players leaving compared to the owners. I think the interesting thing with Sheffield Wednesday as an outsider looking in is that 2 years ago, the squad that hasn't changed. I mean, the turnover has been pretty small in the last 2 years. That looked like a good championship squad 2 years ago. Now, there's not much to hold on to. You're wondering why an owner looking at the league table now and looking at the results over the past couple of years wouldn't look at that and think, right, it's time to freshen it up. It's time to sell the players that we can.
I think it's all part of a learning process, which we all do. And I think if somebody's got their commitment in something, as he has, and his heart's in it, that goes a long way for me. Just that key piece to add on.
But just the notion of talking about promotion in the statement last night it just seems crazy unless there's an understanding that has to be.
It's not real world.
It's funny, stranger things have happened. You know, we could be back here. I don't think we will. Well, you might be back here. George Elek, thanks so much indeed. James Marriott, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to the other James.
As always.
And we'll be back with another very interesting guest, by the way, next week. This is on YouTube later. See you. Bye-bye.